Hi, Seegers.
Yeah. Well, I believe in you. I'll just head out and.
Oh, did you want to know
Yes.
the balance?
Yeah,
of the next-
yeah.
I'm looking that up for you right now.
I feel like I'm imposing.
We're conducting city business over there. Hang on, Chris.
I'm
You came to join the council
I
meeting.
hear this.
I'm intruded. Seahawks. I wouldn't wear a hat like that.
There's no public comments right now.
So when the renovation's done here, do these offices go back upstairs?
No, they're gonna be
Oh, over there, okay.
This will remain in the council chamber.
This isn't open to the public.
Library, because council chamber used to be the.
It is?
side and the library is
I might just sit for a
So
minute.
the library has a whole, both sides.
Tuesday. Yeah, it is a Tuesday meeting. I wouldn't sit.
Oh,
So those three counts. This one isn't, you have a negative amount.
do we have an Amber on?
So what we should probably do is
She is,
apply that to one of these accounts.
She's on here, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will make myself a note
For sure, yeah.
to figure out how to do that.
Okay.
Let me look at that account number really quick, please.
You gonna stay, Chris?
Yes.
All right, I call the City of Roslyn City Council meeting to order. It's Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021. It is 4:34. Let's all stand for a flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Gruber,
Here.
Councilmember Shearer, Councilmember Weiss,
Here.
Councilmember Cook,
Here.
Councilmember Missile,
Here.
Councilmember Adams,
Here.
Councilmember Yen,
Here.
and Mayor House.
I'm here. Do we have any agenda updates?
Oh, that contract.
Oh, yeah, first I have one, Old City Hall contract, we finally got it. The team is ready to go. It's a standard contract that has been used over and over. So I really appreciate it if we can just get it on there and pass it. So we'll put that at the end of the new business. After the public hearing, before unfinished business. It's right here in front of me. Any motions, for agenda updates?
I'll make a motion to take off the moratorium discussion and hold that and for the the moratorium discussion, hold that for next meeting.
I'll second that motion.
More,
Okay, for discussion, I think that we could, we'll either do it at this next meeting or we could do a special meeting. Council can go ahead and reach out to me if you do wanna do it in a week rather than 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think let's get information back and we'll move on from what we get back from the attorney. And then once we know what that is, then I think we call a special session if needed. A special meeting, agreed?
yeah, for sure.
Okay, then.
Let me see how far, yeah.
Okay, all in favor of removing the, development moratorium, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to that, say nay in their name. Okay, the development moratorium will be placed on a future meeting. Any other consent agenda updates? Or agenda updates? Okay, the consent agenda for this evening is checks and EFTs as follows. Accounts payable in the amount of $56,808.02. ACH account payable in the amount of $16,799.10. And payroll, for the last pay period was $18,166.80. And we have the 2 sets of minutes, the one that we missed last time, the most recent one.
Make a motion to move the consent agenda for tonight.
Second.
Any discussion here, council? All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Alright.
Anybody opposed, say nay. Consent agenda, move forward. We'll start with our reports. As Chief Bland on this evening?
He's on.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, Chief.
So just a quick update on us. We are trying to get some end of the year projects complete. One of those is the generator, and I know I've reported on this several months, and unfortunately it's taken this long to get it running. But it is running. It does handle the entire building. There's an issue with the transfer switch that was installed, but that's still under warranty because it was brand new. So hopefully that'll be switched over soon. So it'll automatically switch over to generator power, because right now we have to physically turn the generator on, so it's not that big of a deal. But at least we'll have that generator in place coming into the winter months. We are still in background for new hire to replace Officer Uren, that retired earlier this year. That background investigation is coming to a close, so hopefully I'll have some news for you folks soon on that. And we do have our firearms training, and that's a semi-annual training. It's hosted at the Elmford Police Department at their firing range. We're hoping to look at next year on doing more firearms training. Twice a year, in my opinion, is not sufficient. And other than that, we did have a pursuit that went through. I'm sure you guys saw it on Facebook, whatnot. It was a low-speed pursuit. It met the new guidelines that we fall under for pursuits through Washington state laws. And I'm happy to report nobody was injured. Subject was taken into custody, charged with suspicious DUI and several other charges. Finally, we had the house fire in Roslyn. I'm sure Chief Reagan, if she's on, will talk to you more about that. That our prayers go out to the families, and we hope that they're taken care of for the holiday season. Other than that, any questions?
Just one, Chief. Did you get all the cars outfitted with cameras yet?
Yes, so that's in full swing, and it really came in handy during that pursuit. And what was really nice was, in addition to the pursuit video footage, when the subject got stopped finally after we did spike strips, etc., the actual physical arrest took place out of view of the patrol cars, but the officers had their body cameras. So the entire incident from beginning to end is on video. And I cannot stress enough how important that is and what a great asset that we finally have.
Well, I'm happy for the department and happy for all the residents too. Thanks.
Thank you. You bet.
Anything else, Council? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, next up, Chief Bland, or Chief Regan, excuse me.
She's not logged in, so if she's on there, she'll have to hit star or asterisk 3.
Secretary Martin on?
No.
Anybody from the fire department? Asterisk 3. Okay, we'll move on. As far as committees and commissions, Councilmember Cook, yeah,
Oh, the
CSC meet?
CSC meets next week.
oh, okay. Okay, Councilmember Missile, anything from Planning Historic?
Two things. Planning Historic will be tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And then I will throw in the Roslyn Lodging Tax Committee met on Friday. And we had a really good showing for projects and events in the Upper County, including the RDA got a good chunk of money. The Heritage Club got a good chunk of money for some projects up here, as did Cleone's Downtown Association. So it was a lot smoother than it was last year at this time. And I thank Kathy Cook for her assistance with this too. It was her first year. So went really well. Rhonda did a nice job with the whole thing. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Councilmember Adams, Cemetery Group?
We did submit the grant for the new irrigation system to the Historic Society in the state of Washington, so that is in. We'll find out sometime a couple months after the first year.
As far as the library groups, is there anybody on from the library board, or if the friends wanna speak? Then Louise?
Lynn's on there. I don't know if she wants to talk or not.
No, thanks.
Thank you, Lynn. We could have the contractor in this next week, so depending on how the night goes. Next up, as far as boards and staff goes, well, we have Theo this evening to give a hefty presentation. Appreciate it.
As much as anything, wanted to get an opportunity just to provide an update on some of the bigger CIP projects out there. In a world of water, as we all know with the transmission main, we're trying to go through the motions securing a pre-con loan. Our original program director quit, and then the follow-up program director is also no longer with the Public Works Board. So they're going through the motions, trying to get the program coordinator all nailed down, and then we can get the contract moving there. As far as the overall timing goes, we're trying to replace the transmission main and going for the USDA loan. The timing is okay. Because of the process associated with the USDA loan, even if everything went right, the quickest we're gonna be able to start construction is 2023. So the timing's kinda okay, even though they're a little held up, we'd like to get a little further along. For the clear well, one thing I want to double check on. Are we all on the same page that that's reinforced concrete that thing's made out of? Okay.
Yes.
So as much as anything, the structural integrity keeps coming up. Until we see some rebar showing through or something going on with the rebar, the condition of the concrete is very much secondary to the condition of that rebar right there in terms of the structural integrity. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page on that.
I think it was mostly a timing thing of what the plan was for spring. I think there's a little misperception of what actually spring was. I think some of us were anticipating that we were actually gonna have it drain low and actually do camera inside and actually see what the inside of that thing looked like, and if we haven't done that, and then what our direction was rather than a hole, so we knew if we were gonna put a bladder in it or if it was a tank.
Certainly, and
We didn't think a wall was gonna blow out.
No.
Our main concern is that
Okay.
the
Yeah.
money water's leaking out constantly, and once we stop that our money water leaving, then we fix that problem, so.
okay, understood.
Yeah, I think it's more
That's
just a
our
question in
biggest
spring of
concern.
what the direction was in spring.
And
Yeah.
we're leaning towards that, even though kind of right now, technically we don't need it as
Right.
far as the storage goes, that point contact time. There's some implications with leaving it empty for too long.
Right.
In terms of disinfection and how long we want to leave, just due to the size of it. So we are, very much leaning towards a liner in it.
Okay.
Essentially over the winter time, we're gonna see about putting together some cost alternatives.
Great.
Present it to you folks, see what we can't do to essentially get that thing, try to probably a vinyl liner for it, so.
Cool.
Great.
Quick seal, right?
We'll see
Seen on
what's
TV.
there.
Joking.
For the reservoir up there, that's another planning effort over the winter time here to get that cover replaced. There's some implications, as we all know, the clear well feeds the reservoir, and when it goes to the reservoir, if that pressure is released, it goes atmospheric again, and then it gets repressurized from the reservoir. When we bypass that, we're kind of missing that pressure step, that pressure reducing step. So we've got to see about coming up with a that's to a pressure reducing valve or a pressure reducing station to try to make it when we bypass that thing, we don't start blowing out plumbing rings in the town.
And that's up at reserve. We need a pressure relief valve up the reservoir.
The reservoir, yeah. It's looking that way from where we go to zero pressure. If we bypass, there's no zero pressure. It holds that pressure from the clear well, and the clear well, as we know, gravity feeds into that. We got more pressure there. We just need to make sure we don't get ourselves into a bind.
So we have other PRV valves throughout, like on Hoffmanville and so forth,
There's
just
two.
nothing up to control that massive volume of water.
Indeed, and that's exactly why we have those, because that elevation difference, without those PRVs, potentially blowing out.
Yeah, okay.
So, Theo, just so I understand is, so you mean while the lid is being, or the cover is being replaced,
Yep.
the reservoir will come offline,
Indeed.
and then the only storage will be from the clear well, which is a higher pressure.
The two clear wells.
The two clear wells,
Yep.
which is a higher pressure.
Indeed.
Okay.
The water system plan. As much as anything, as we probably all know, that's the plan that gets reviewed and approved by Department of Health that permits us to have water in the city here. The plan is approved on intervals of 6 to 10 years. We were on a 6-year interval for the last update there. As much as anything, I included the pre-planned checklist in the agenda there, because that does a great job of encompassing everything related to the codes driving it, the timelines associated with it, and then a bullet bullet summary of what's in each one of those chapters there. That pre-plan checklist comes from Department of Health. That's a little bit more them handing that off to us, saying, here's what you're going to do. As much as anything, we know our water system plan expired last year, right, about a year ago. There's about a 1-year review time frame associated with this. As much as anything, it would have needed to been submitted in November of 2019 in order to hit a window to get it approved before it expires. Right now, we're not at what we call like a yellow permit or anything like that. We're not in any bad standing with the Department of Health. We got it resubmitted in October here last month. They're going through the process of reviewing.
And that was the checklist that you provided, is everything that was submitted in November?
Indeed, and that's kind of the part,
Sweet.
the process or the approach.
Yep.
The last 6 years, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so, the city did submit a draft water plan to DOH and it's being reviewed?
Indeed, it was due last month, middle of October. That's definitely, if we missed that window, that's where they can start to side eye us pretty good. There are also some implications, like for the transmission main replacement. We can't do anything on our CIP list if we don't have an approved water system plan. So the timing for it all, with when we might be able to do the transmission main, it's all gonna work out fine. It's definitely not ideal that the thing expired.
Yes. So are they able to reinstate it while they're reviewing the new one, or are we without a plan for a short period of time?
Our water system plan is expired right now. And so we would, if we had a capital improvement project we wanna do going in the next year, that could be difficult without an approved water system plan. Fortunately, since we're looking at that 2023 time frame, as long as we can get everything approved within about a year, timing should work out.
Can we apply and get grants if we don't have an active water plan?
It's a little bit more, grants wouldn't come into play with
Or
Department of Health so
loans.
much. It's really Department of Health's final approval that yes, essentially the city has a permit to provide fire water and potable water.
Just on water plans though, doesn't hold up our CIP or anything like that, right?
For the storm?
No,
No,
yeah.
strictly
Strictly
water.
water.
Yep.
Just making sure.
And
Figured,
so it
but-
was, the approach for that thing, one of the things about the pre-plan checklist, the water system plan is about 500 pages, appendix and everything, so it wasn't gonna work to try to go through the whole thing at a meeting like this. But the approach was definitely, as we all know, in the last 6 years, in the world of capital improvement projects with water, they did what? The transmission main over the bridge, none of the transmission main on the west side, none of the reservoir cover stuff, none of the treatment plant upgrades. To a certain extent, I tried to change as little as possible.
Right.
All the CIPs that were there from 6 years ago are pretty much all there again. So the idea wasn't at all try to reinvent the wheel or try to bring a bunch of new stuff in. It was really, let's streamline this process, make sure it's square for the stuff we want to take care of, get it in the Department of Health. So we can provide a draft of that for anybody to go through. What I would suggest though is that we potentially wait. Department of Health is reviewing this right now. They're gonna provide the comments, right? We very much wanna frame up like anything we revise around those comments. And then once we get it approved, if there's some other stuff or whatnot we wanna change, fine. But right now, that's kind of the goal, is to go through the motions, get it reviewed, get it approved as quickly as possible, and hopefully we can, like I said, about a year.
Once again, so is a valid water plan, which we're working towards, is that a gating item to submit for grants and loans or whatever? Is that gonna hold us up?
I see what you're saying. On certain loans, yes. DWSRF, the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, you have to have an approved water system plan. Other, like what we did for the Public Works Board loan or whatnot, it's a little softer. They prefer, but it's not a hard requirement.
Anything that's gonna hold us up though, we're not, are we?
Not at the moment, no, because for the USDA loan, that's not one of the hard, it's one of the suggested, but it's not one of the things that's gonna prevent us from applying.
And did I understand you to say it'll be a year before it's finally approved? Is that right?
I think that's the typical time frame that they gave. Department of Health, in terms of review times, they get 3 months at a time. No, we're not gonna contact them for the next couple months, they'll let us know when they're done. We'll essentially go through, boil those down, what comments we think are pretty straightforward, low-hanging fruit. If there's anything we need to come to you folks with, that's when we'll come and say, hey, here's the comments we received, wanna resubmit, Department of Health gets another 3 months.
Do you see anything holding us up with the Department of Health and the application that you submitted to them? Or anything that we have?
There's some motions we're gonna have to go through for sure. I mean, you have to go through the motions of getting the final plan approved. There are some implications since our water use efficiency has been over 10% for 3 years running, from 2018, 2019, 2020. We'll see if they want us to come back and put together a water loss control action plan, which is, for the most part, pretty straightforward. Saying that we're gonna, improve on meters and try not to have any leaks and all that stuff.
Do we have to hit a goal or a threshold
10%.
under 10? Yeah.
If we can get, we're at like 12.3 right now.
So we're right there. It'd be nice to be under,
It's
way
getting
under 10.
better. Yeah, you could see over the last 6 years, it really crawled up there.
And that's due to, just for everybody's sake, like, due to just
There's,
leaky pipes to infiltration into our.
it could be a range of things.
Okay.
We have a meter, of course, at the plant, clocking exactly what we produce. Then, of course, we have all the meters through town for businesses and residential and whatnot. That's a lot of where that comes out is if we're not doing good on our metering and we're not reading all our meters, or the old meters that aren't keeping track good, that's where we could run into a rub.
Could we possibly have a problem with our meter at our fill station?
Those are newer
Or
meters
those
and
are newer, okay.
calibrated.
Just
Your
out of
typical residential one, we install it, and then unless we're on some sort of program, basically leave it, until
Yeah.
you just replace it. A little different with, like the PRB stations, the meter at the reservoir, the meter at the plant.
Okay, just out of curiosity.
Any estimate of how much was coming out of the clear well before the water levels dropped? How big a percentage that was?
Oh, boy, less than half. Beforehand, on that Ronald side.
Oh, I mean, that went into the 12%, it's troublesome. By
Oh,
dropping that, how much is that gonna,
Technically, we're allowed to count just after the clear wall.
oh,
So like,
okay.
what was going on with the transmission main on the west side over there? If we had to count that, right?
We would've lost a lot.
So,
there's a meter downstream of the clear
Is it
well
in that
before
box?
it goes to the reservoir?
there's
How's
a
it-
meter at the reservoir. Unfortunately, we're fine on how we calculate everything. It's not quite as tight as we'd like because they lost the metering data for the reservoir for the last number of years there. It's one thing we couldn't find in the transition with Public Works over this year.
Did we lost the data, you said?
So we have,
That's
there's
not sure. Huh?
multiple ways we can calculate it.
And I know you didn't, sorry, I apologize, I said you didn't lose the data, and we lost the data, sorry,
We did, yes, but we're picking back up on it this year, like so many other things. It is one thing we're noticing. Bubba and them are getting way better, at tracking down meters, make sure everything's read, finding meters out there. I'm anticipating already kind of a nice little bump just from that.
Cool.
I think they're on a meter replacement still in some areas.
Correct.
To get
Is
back
that
to your
correct?
Yeah.
original question, I wouldn't doubt it, that's one of the things where we get together and kind of have a meeting to a little more formal under the guise of
Public Works.
addressing Department of Health comments. So.
Okay.
Good.
Anything else on water or the water system plan or stormwater? We're in the design phase. We got all the survey work done for the work up on Alaska and Nevada out there. As much as anything, gonna put the design together over the winter here, see if we can't secure funds for it, based on the estimates.
Okay.
For anybody interested, what the final conditions might look like, it looks like they already did the exact same thing with the sewer in that alley. If you look out there, for
They went up the alley?
the alley between Nevada and Alaska.
Yep.
If you go out to 6th there.
Yep.
There's a sewer manhole that's about 14 feet deep.
Huh.
I can tell they just pretty much did the exact same, it's what we're trying to do with the sewer.
Yep.
Chase it down the alley, it's probably gonna be a deep manhole right there, and then get it under Nevada and hook up with that good catch basin.
So that is the plan we ended up going with at this point.
But indeed, we just gotta essentially, I think, finding the funding for it, especially the tricky part is still, I don't think they're gonna let us close down Nevada, WashDOT that is.
Right.
Potentially trying to directional drill under that thing. It is a very good candidate for the lay down area you need on each side in order to drill underneath. But we'll see what the final.
And that'll take it out of 2 private properties at that point.
Not only that, but it'll take out about 3 or 4 90-degree
Yes.
bends
Yep.
that we can't access.
Yeah, we know that area quite well, so we've spent a lot of time there.
So there is. Oh,
Sorry, so we're looking at a deep pocket like that sewer manhole, then we're looking
One.
like a one big deep pocket.
Yep.
How big a pipe? With this
We'll
directional
probably
drilling?
swing for the fences. Everything else we've done has been 12 inches. So if we can make that work, we'll probably go with the 12.
12-inch storm pipe?
Indeed, because that ties into where we did on 3rd in Utah, a nice big new type 2 there.
For the
So-
future of that coming into it is what,
Yeah,
that's what I
something
thought.
below it, yeah. But are we gonna have any problems downstream from that though? Or does that go into
No, 'cause
Crystal
that-
Creek?
No, that ties into our 3rd, that other big
Ties
type
into
2
the third.
that then heads down through the park there essentially.
Yeah, okay. So just
It
I just
does
don't want,
end up in Crystal.
It does end up in Crystal Creek, so
I
I
think
just wanna make
everything
sure
does,
that we're not
yeah.
funneling, sometimes that park floods to the whole thing, and so I'm just, and that of course that was a backup root ball, but if we're putting in a bunch, I don't know, I just don't want something to happen downstream, which it might, but hopefully we're gonna get this corrected, and then if we have to fix something later on, then we're gonna have to.
Indeed, for right now, we're not seeing any issues essentially, that are gonna be caused downstream because of that.
Yeah.
As you well know, we're trying to fix those upstream issues where
First.
that water starts to come up there.
Yeah.
When you talk about Crystal Creek though, the CIP bypass out there, that Megan Hunt is working on,
Yep.
they're at the 90% on the plans and specs on that. For the treatment portion, looking at retrofitting for some bioswales and things up there, they're at about the 30% level.
Okay.
Everything is 100% still geared towards doing construction starting next year here.
Great.
But it is gonna go into 2023. I know they kinda think we're gonna be able to do some construction during the winter, but like we keep trying to remind them, no, we won't.
It's been an 8-year process for that project. It
Yeah.
started in 15.
Oh, yeah.
Construction, looking at starting next year.
Yeah.
Cool.
In addition to that, from a heads up from Councilmember Missile there, on Friday this last week, we submitted for the COG grant application for the, cover the, balance for construction. You recall, we got the $1.475 million grant. We were short of 260,000, so we submitted for the whole thing.
Good. Perfect.
Nice.
And I believe they find out in January?
I think we will vote on it this month, about the middle of the month. I have 2 COG meetings this month. I think it's the middle of the month we'll vote on it, and then you should find out first part of January, yeah.
Huh.
But right now, I think you're worth shooing to get it, I think. Keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Been nice to everybody involved, so, as you have you, so thank you for getting that work done too.
Indeed, and they were very helpful down there as well, so. In the world of sewer, Bubba and I have been getting a little more serious about trying to come up with a program to track I&I essentially. And then once we've kind of got an idea of where it's coming in, why it's coming in, what potentially could we do? For those of you, you might be familiar, there's cast in place, you know, might just rip it out or replace it. But that's something we're gonna try to get a little more serious about that. In the world of streets, either middle of next month or January, we'll go through and revise again the 6-year TIP. The Transportation Improvement Plan, if you recall that from our last approval of that, because we had our 6-year TIP approved, we went in for the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board grant. Essentially, for our first item on the 6-year TIP was the overlays for the third, where we did the stormwater work, and then on Utah there as well. And we just found out that we received $55,000 grant.
Great.
So we're gonna get moving on some streets this next year. And for this next cycle, I think we're gonna swing for the fences and ask for like $250,000.
Okay.
And that's pretty much what I got. I know all the water stuff.